Facebook right now. I'm gonna record this for the people that cannot watch us live today. So hello, Kristin. How are you this morning for me, evening for you?
I'm well. I'm excited to be here and really excited to chat.
Fantastic. And for all the people that don't know me, my name is Claudia, nutrition and dietetic clinician and founder of the Recover from HA support group and period comeback protocol. And I met the lovely Kristin not that long ago because I was actually going through my notes and I had a feeling that I met you like 12 months ago, but the reality is that I think that we met only 5 months ago, Kristin. So that's how quickly your body responded, and that's how quickly you managed to get your period back. And it's a joy having you here today because you're going to share with all of us how you got your period back. But let's wait for the juicy details. First of all, I would like to go back a couple of years and really have a good understanding of how you lost your period in the first place and how come that you developed hypothalamic amenorrhea.
Yeah. So I first noticed that my period was missing in 2018. And as a little background, I've always been an active person. I grew up like playing sports and being outside a lot, but I never dieted before. And in 2018, my husband decided that he wanted to start counting calories to lose weight, and he downloaded MyFitnessPal. And I remember kind of learning along with him. Like up until that point in my life, I didn't really learn about calories or what food restriction can do to your body. It was never something that was top of mind for me. So I started tracking my calories along with my husband, and it started off just kind of like very mild deficit. I was like learning about, what foods are higher in calories and what foods are lower in calories. And I started to lose a little bit of weight, but I think where I kind of went wrong is I never accounted for the fact that I have always been an active person. And I have always worked out, and I used to run a lot. And my husband is not really a very active person. So he was kind of just limiting his calories and hoping to lose weight that way. And I was doing the same thing, but I wasn't accounting for the energy that I was expending in my exercise. So I was under fueling by like a lot, basically. So, but I think as a lot of people will relate to, once you start losing the weight and kind of seeing that happen and that those changes to your body, I wasn't very big to begin with, but I started to see results pretty quickly. And that was like a very intoxicating feeling for me, to see that I could control like that and then like manipulate the way I was eating. So that kind of snowballed into then becoming very interested in like wellness and fitness culture. And eventually I kind of stumbled down like the bodybuilding rabbit hole. I never competed and I never did a prep or anything like that, but I was very fascinated by like what it takes to prep and go on stage. And I was reading a lot of bodybuilding content, even though I wasn't in the sport itself. And so then I went from tracking calories to tracking macros. And long story short, that I think my HA and a lot of like the disordered behaviors that I picked up came to me as like, they were sort of packaged as like health and like fitness lifestyle. So, you could look at like a girl who has abs and think like, well, how is she unhealthy? Because she looks like she's like the picture of fitness. And so I think a lot of the behaviors that I picked up from fitness and like bodybuilding culture were disguised as healthy, but they were really, really debilitating. Like I was body checking a lot and engaging in a lot of restriction and measuring and weighing things, measuring like veggies and things that were already healthy that I was very, very intensely like obsessed with that. So that is kind of in a nutshell, like where I found myself before realizing that it was bad that I didn't have a period, of course, but also like my husband and I have been married for a couple of years and we wanted to start a family. So that was really like the primary motivation. And as I started learning about these things, I realized like your period is important, not just if you want to have babies or not, it's important for your health and your bones. So that's like roughly where I was coming from when I reached out to you. So.
And thank you for sharing your journey with us, Kristin. And it's crazy though, in hindsight, such a very innocent behavior like downloading MyFitnessPal and just going for runs can actually become something that it's very disruptive to your life and to your health in such a short period of time. And I find myself in your story as well, because my obsession with running started with my husband, because he wanted to get healthier and he wanted to run a marathon. But the thing is that he knew exactly when to stop, rest, and he ate loads and loads and loads of carbs and all the other wonderful foods. And I took it to the extreme. And I am a child of the 80s, so for many years I had to write down all the calories and like make notes of how many things I was eating every single day. And then all of a sudden, someone told me, well, you can do it on MyFitnessPal. And when I downloaded the app, I thought, oh my God, it's like fantastic. Now I got life sorted. And those were just my disorder behaviors that were having a party, basically. And even though I thought that I was living the healthiest life, exactly like you described, I had never been so miserable in my behaviors, because having restricting behaviors can restrict your life in general. It's not only about counting calories and going to the gym, it's also about how we feel when we don't engage in exercise. And when we start implementing a different food routine, it's also when we go on holiday and we cannot stick to the same routine. So tell us, Kristin, when did you realize that it was actually a problem, that the way that you were living wasn't satisfying enough for you any longer?
Yeah, I had a couple of different moments. And I think kind of the culmination of those moments was important to me. But I remember one time, and this, this might be a little intense for some people or triggering, but like, I remember one time I ate something and it was like a sweet or something that was not fitting in the macros or, whatever. And I felt so guilty that I spit it out right away. And I'm going to try not to get emotional. That was like a really scary thing, because I had never like experienced any feeling that was so intense that made me want to do that before. So that was kind of the first moment that I knew like something was wrong. And it was like transcending this like guise of healthy or being healthful, because I was so like occupied in my mind with like what food I was going to eat, that it was like taking over everything else that I was doing. And there was another time where I was invited to do something social, and I declined only because I knew the food situation was going to be like a problem for me. And again, when that kind of preoccupation or that obsession like takes over the importance of friends and socializing and like being with family, that's kind of when in my mind I was like, I need to change. I just didn't know what the right steps were and how to do that. So, and then I would add to that too, I did get kind of confronted by my mom, who I'm very close with, but she just noticed that I was becoming like a little more withdrawn, or, I didn't want to do anything that involved like going out to eat or going out for anything where there would be like, I wouldn't know what was in the food. So she noticed that right away, because I had never been like that before. So I think a lot of red flags there, kind of culminating in the thought of, well, if I don't have a period, how am I supposed to get pregnant and start a family. And that was kind of the final, hammer that hit the nail on the head for me. That was like, you need to stop this and you need to change.
Thank you so much once again for being so honest this evening. It made me tear a little bit, because it's not only that specific behavior, it's actually the realization that your life had got to a point where you cannot even say yes to being social with friends, and you are isolating yourself. And I'm pretty sure that if you look back at the way that you were as a teenager, always wanted to go out, always wanted to meet people, be spontaneous around food, and realizing that your life has become so small compared to where it was before, it's extremely scary. And once again, I didn't realize that we had so many similarities in our journey. So once again, thanks for your honesty. And I know that so many women are gonna recognize themselves in what you just shared. So you wanted to get better, you were married, you wanted to have a child, and in the end you decided to reach out to Jade and I and to start working on your mindset and really to get those proven steps to follow so that you could get your period back. What made you book the first call with us? What got you to a point that you decided to ask for help?
Sure. Excuse me. I would say I heard Jade and yourself on a podcast, on Jade's podcast. And that, I wish I could remember which episode it was, because you guys have a lot of good ones, but it was something that was particularly grabbing my attention. And I remember hearing you guys talking about like treating your body or like nourishing your body as if you were already pregnant, even though you're not, but you like want to be. And so that was really moving. And then I was kind of poking around on Instagram and stuff, and saw other women that had worked with you. And that was really just a new perspective and a new idea. I didn't realize that there were coaches specifically for this and for HA. And so kind of just discovering that like little corner of the internet, I thought, well, surely like if other women are doing this and Jade and Claudia seem like a great team, then surely like I could at least have some progress, if not completely recover with their help. So I had been trying to kind of like implement some steps on my own, and it's not that it wasn't working, but I really needed like someone to kind of be like my big sister or, that like mentor figure. And you both were that for me, sort of figuratively in the podcast, but then actually getting to talk to you was really cool too, and really could not have done it without you guys both. So
thank you so much, Kristin. Now you're making me teary again, so we have to stop that because it's only 7 o'clock morning here in Australia.
Sorry.
For all the women watching this on replay or live right now, the podcast that Kristin is referring to, it's called It's a Mind Game, and it's from Jade Cameron. She's a fantastic mindset coach and the mindset coach of the Period Comeback Protocol. So just make sure that you subscribe to it. So I remember that we had our first session and we spoke a lot about your exercise routine and we spoke a lot about your food. And it was really apparent from the very beginning that you didn't even have the awareness of all the things that were going, let's say, wrong, meaning in terms of also your food, because you thought that you were nourishing your body enough, that you were doing enough, and you were quite frustrated because you were not seeing the results. And then we had our first chat and I invited you to implement a few things. And I remember that you took all the advices on board, but you also felt a little bit of resistance in terms of bringing in new foods and especially specific macros at specific times of the days. So can you tell us what was the stickiest, the most difficult part in terms of recovering from HA?
Yeah, definitely. The food part, I was very used to eating a specific meals, like almost the same thing every day. And so that was really tricky, overcoming those habits that were so deeply ingrained. It was like 4+ years of the same breakfast and a lot of the same lunch, honestly, because I work from home. So very easy to just have the same things, and it feels very safe. And of course, this is not to say you can't eat the same foods, but like the same very, very small like group of foods that was comfortable for me. And I remember one of the first things you encouraged me to do was have like real peanut butter instead of the PB powder that I was like so obsessed with. Um, and at the root of that was I was afraid to eat fats because I know that fats have more calories. And I was always trying to find these little hacks to like eat lower calorie. And I was just scared to like eat foods that I knew had a higher fat content, even if I didn't look at the label. It was like a very horrible feeling for me to get over that. So I remember you were like, you just have to like start small. If you want to just measure like a teaspoon or a tablespoon, like something really small. And like little steps like that are super practical because you feel like the boost of confidence when you can achieve something, even if it's small. And then you kind of use that to like build on top, like just one small step on top of the other. So that was also helping me release the control, or like the illusion of control, right? Because you're not really controlling anything. You're just like shackled to these behaviors that you have. So that like overcoming the fear of eating fat was a big one for me. And another thing I would add that like helped with that is I think this was also mentioned in one of the podcasts that you have done with Jade, but having other people cook your meals so that you literally don't have like any way to measure everything out. That was another thing that helped me release the rules of like low fat, low carb, whatever. So that's like a process that honestly I'm still working on a little bit, but it's so much better than it was at the beginning.
Yeah, fantastic. And it's all about the small steps. And as I said, the small steps, they build up until you create a new habit, which is exactly what we want. And in terms of fat, there is also something that I would like to share with all of you. Like, fat doesn't make you fat. That's something that I don't know how we have learned along the way, but that's not the case. And most of the fat foods are very deeply satisfying and extremely nourishing. So for example, if you need to have a whole cabbage to feel 50% satisfied, you may need just a couple of teaspoons or something that is fattier to be absolutely content. Also, fats are incredible in terms of producing sex hormones, absorbing vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin C, and vitamin A as well. So sometimes looking at a food with a different set of eyes and actually understanding what the food can do for your body is going to help you to take the next step. And as you mentioned, those behaviors, you're still working on them. And also please allow lots of self-compassion in this journey, because you have been really strict with those behaviors for 4 years and you got your period back in a very short amount of time. So it means that your body responded sooner compared to your brain, the rewiring of your brain. And that's absolutely okay, as long as you keep keep challenging your disorder behaviors and creating new routines. And I think that you've done so well. And I have this picture in my mind of one day you sent me this box of cereals and your smile on top of the box of cereals, and they made me laugh like crazy. Tell us more about that moment.
I remember that day so well. Oh my goodness. I haven't allowed myself to eat cereal for probably like 4 or 5 years, and I had a craving for it, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And I ate like quite a lot of cereal once I allowed myself to do it, and it was scary because I didn't feel in control. Like if I could just sit down and eat one bowl, it would be way less scary, but I kept eating, and then I was like very full. And after I kind of sat with that and like let it sink in, it was like it was a victory though, because even though in the moment I felt like scared, like, am I binging right now? Like, I don't know what's happening. Afterwards, I calmed down and I realized that like I was just listening to my body and I had intense hunger, and then I stopped and then I was full and satisfied. And then I would come back to that cereal like the next day for breakfast and have a bowl, or whenever I wanted. And it was just a lesson in like, you feel that fear, but you just do it anyway. And then slowly with those steps, it has less of like a hold over you. And
Yeah,
that was powerful to feel that.
it's crazy how we question our food choices though, isn't it? Because if you don't
Yeah.
sleep for like 3 days and then you end up sleeping for 12 hours, obviously you're going to tell yourself, well, that's very normal that I slept 12 hours. Same thing, if you drink
Yeah.
water and you find yourself going to the bathroom 5 times instead of 2, you're like, yeah, fair enough. I drank 2 liters of water. And you didn't have cereal for 5 years. And all of a sudden, there was a box right in front of you and you allowed yourself to do it, to have the cereals. May I just congratulate you immensely for actually sitting down with your feelings and having your feel foods the next day as well, because that's the tricky part of the fear food challenges. We think that it's enough to just buy the food and have it once, and then we can move on with the rest of our life. But the reality is that we have to repeat the process over and over again before we can actually normalize it. So,
Yeah.
Kristin, thumbs
Thank
up.
you.
So well. But now let's get to the fun bit. When did you get your period back? How did that happen?
So it happened on December 16th, which is not that long ago. And the crazy thing is that it happened, we were obviously getting ready for Christmas and everything. And my husband came down with COVID, and it was kind of a couple of days before we were going to be off work and everything. And I was trying really hard to not like, we were trying to keep him in one bedroom and opening windows. And I was trying not to get it from him, but of course I ended up getting it. And it was the second day that I had symptoms. I was like very sedentary, and I don't think COVID or like sitting around for 2 days was the reason I started bleeding. I think it was a culmination of like, up to that point, I was trying really hard and laying the groundwork. And then boom, I was sick. I was laying around for 2 days. And on the second day, I started bleeding. And I literally, I went back into the bathroom to like double, triple check that it was actually a period. And it was 6 days. I got better from COVID, and my period finished up on the 6th day, and it was surreal. Like, I'm honestly still in shock. So it was amazing.
So great. The first period, I still remember that I got it before going to sleep the first time, and I couldn't sleep at night. And I thought, why didn't I get it in the morning? It's like, I love that you actually mentioned the COVID situation, because yes, there is some, oh my God, I cannot talk this morning. There are some scientific studies that actually show that COVID can interfere with the sex hormones production, but not in the way that you just described, because you got COVID and basically the next day you got a period. That means that your endometrium lining was thick enough and needed to be shed. So it was just, you could have got COVID, or maybe you could have been absolutely healthy. You still would have got your period. That's all I'm trying to say right now. And don't allow that seed to get to your brain that you managed to menstruate simply because you were sitting down and being sick. There are plenty of periods to come in your life, Kristin, and a baby very soon. Is that correct?
That is what we're trying for now. So if you see me posting in the group about ovulation, I'm trying to, I want it to be like my mission. I want to know all about my period, because even before, when I was like having normal periods, I never tracked, or I never like knew all this about like tracking your cervical mucus and stuff like that. So I'm like, no, this time I'm not going to take it for granted. I'm going to learn like as much as I can and the goal, yes, is to get pregnant. I would be so happy if that happens very soon. But even if it takes a couple of cycles, I want to learn everything and just like know my body, because it's so much more important to me now. And I'm not gonna let it go again.
Absolutely. And also getting in tune with our period allows us to improve our energy, to perform better our work. And if you start syncing your exercise food with the different phase of the menstrual cycle, you are really going to start thriving. And checking the cervical mucus. Some women, when I ask them, can you please actually send me a picture of your cervical mucus? They're like, oh, Claudia, no, I don't know. I think that is the most natural thing in our body, and is actually a very healthy sign that your body is responding to the things that you're doing. And I love that now you want to learn about it, and you want to fully embrace the next stage of your life and your next 2 periods before a baby is going to come your way. So Kristin, it has been an absolute pleasure spending the past few months with you. For all the women listening, and I know that I'm putting you on the spot right now, but is there anything that you would like to share that you would have loved that someone actually told you before you started with Jade and I, and you started with this whole process?
Yes, I would say if you are watching this and you are just learning about HA, or you're kind of wondering, wait, let me back up. I would say if you're watching this and you have gone to the doctor and the doctor has told you that you are at a normal weight, or you're at a normal BMI, but you have read about HA and these symptoms that we have described are like resonating with you, don't delay and don't doubt that just because you are at a normal body weight that you might not have HA, or you're looking for like a loophole. Because something that kind of like haunted me at the beginning of all of this was, I have never been like severely underweight. I never looked emaciated or like I had a super low body weight, but I had a problem. I had HA, and now I fixed it, and I had to gain weight to fix it. And I think it's really hard when you look on the outside, you kind of look like you're healthy, or you look like you're normal. But there's actually there's a lot more to health than just how you look in a moment. So I would encourage everyone who feels like they maybe don't fit the description of someone who's unhealthy, like dig a little deeper and just know that like you're not the only person to experience it.
I think that we should make a second episode just on this. It's such an important topic of conversation, and I'm just sorry that we are bringing it up at the end of this conversation. But yeah, there are so many women out there that they actually think, it's not me, I don't need to gain any more weight, even though I don't have a menstrual cycle, because I've never had an eating disorder, I've never been undernourished. But the reality is that yes, hypothalamic amenorrhea can happen to every single woman, also in women in diverse bodies that have gone through lots of stress, or that have lost a dramatic amount of weight in a very short period of time, even if they're still in a larger body compared to society standards, let's say.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for clarifying that. I think that it was very important for all of us to listen to this message. And Kristin, thank you for being here this morning. It has been wonderful, and I'm gonna still checking in with you over the next few months just to see where you're at. And for all the women watching or watching this on replay, if you wanna ask any questions to Kristin, just post it in the comment section, and I'm gonna send the questions over to Kristin.
Yeah, absolutely.
Today.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Claudia. You're wonderful.
Thank you.